it's wise for us to start thinking about it right now and start seeing how we can shift so we can start moving. So when it actually comes, it will be a little bit easier for us to move right on into it. Because the same way you'll hear somebody say, dress for the job that you want, not the job that you have, right? That's the same thing as what I'm talking about. So the things that you want to manifest in 2021 and beyond that, start moving and preparing those ways now. Because if you don't start thinking about it now and seeing how you can be in that now, what's going to happen when it actually becomes a manifestation and you don't even know how to handle it? So I seen something that talked about a lot of people saying, man, if I had the extra business, if I was doing this, well, say you get an extra 5,000 clients or extra 5,000 people to buy something, what are you going to do? Are you even going to be able to handle that? So the very things that you're saying that you want, we have to actually prepare ourselves right now. A lot of times we be motivated by the emotion of, I want to get this done, or I want to get this done. And so that motivation is based upon that emotion. So when that is gone, now we can't move with any intention because that motivation is gone. And so we have to really think about, as you're saying, our reason for why we're trying to do it. It cannot just be something that's surface level if we want it to last. If we want it to sustain over a period of time, we have to do what you're saying when actually come up with a foundation system, a structured outline, so we can say, hey, even though I may have deviated from the course, this is all I need to do to get back on track. I love that. Here's the thing, especially with me being a person that deals with overcoming self-doubt. I know that a lot of times we can't be intentional about the things that we're trying to do because we have that doubt within ourselves. We can't actually visualize something that is going to happen on the other side because we have that doubt. Refer back to things that they can tangibly say, this is what I did. This is what I accomplished. So you help them to go back in their memory banks and say, okay, when I did this, it created this feeling. So this action created this emotion on the positive side. And so by them actually visualizing that on a totally different area of life, but now them being able to pinpoint that there and then bring it over to the place that they're trying to get to the next level of is going to help them to be able to have that belief in themselves and now take whatever they're trying to do and say, I can do this. Not I want to do this, but I can do this. It's very important that we acknowledge the emotional aspect of it, because as people, we're not only logical, but we're very emotional. And so when we're talking about the realm of moving with intentions in our life, we have to actually put those two things together and see how we can now make it work to our benefit. Because sometimes we just say, you know what, I have this emotion, but I don't have the physical aspect of it. I can't do this because the emotional aspect isn't there. So we have to actually bridge that gap. And what you're doing is helping people to bridge that gap so they can start moving with more intentions. And talking about guilt, which I recently, come to understand that there's a total difference between the two. I will be first to say I thought shame and guilt and shame was one and the same, but now understanding that they're totally different, it changed my perspective on things. And something that you said was giving yourself grace. And so sometimes we'll start shaming ourselves saying, oh, well, I'm a bad person, opposed to I did this bad thing or I didn't get this done. And so we have to stop being so overly critical of ourselves when we're trying to be intentional on the things that we're trying to accomplish. Now, something else that you talked about was, you're not going to always have a great day, right? Now, I'm going to challenge that theory, right? I'm going to challenge that theory. And this is my theory. because everything I always say, I put it at the end of all of my quotes. I say, go be great. And so my belief is, even when you're having problems, you are still great. Even though you didn't get something done, you are still great. It is still a great day. Why? Because you woke up, because you have life. Even though, as you said, you couldn't walk at one point, but you wasn't dead though. So it still was great for you because it now you have the opportunity for something else to happen. You don't know what it is. And so I just believe that when we again stop having that overcritical mindset, like, oh, well, I didn't get this done, it's not a great day. Like, I just believe that we have to say positive affirmations to ourselves. We have to tell ourselves, look, this may be happening in my life, but I am still great. It's still a great day. We know that everything is energy, whether it's good, whether it's bad, that's up to the person, but it's all energy. And so even if you'll have a situation, one person can say, well, this negative thing happened to me, but another person can say, well, this negative thing happened for me. And so just by shifting that, it will actually help us to be more intentional about the things that we're trying to do in our life. That, oh, well, just because you believe that it's going to happen, then it's going to happen. Because we know that even though we have the best intention sometimes, and we might put in our all, we put in our best effort, that doesn't mean that you're going to always get the results that you're looking for. But we can give ourselves, as you said, that grace when we say, I put forth my best effort though. And so by us putting forth our best effort, that's what makes us great. That's what makes us say, all right, well, even though I didn't get the results that I wanted, I still was able to put forth my best effort. And I know now the next time it come around, I'll actually be a little bit sweeter. I'll be a little bit better. And I just believe that when we look at it that way, we'll start looking for ways on how we can improve. Because when we're trying to move with intentions, that's saying we're trying to look for improvement. We ain't being hyped up about the things that we good at. Like, that you are good at whatever you do, but you also know what you're not good at. And so if we start looking at how we can improve on our weaknesses and not being so puffed up about the things that we're strong at, it'll actually make us be more intentional. It'll help us to move to whatever realm that we're trying to get into. To know what we're capable of, know what we're not capable of, and look for whatever goal to be the outcome, because it's no different than our GPS system. That's what you're saying. Our GPS system says, hey, is a brick in the road, we got to find a detour. But that don't mean just because you come to this detour, are you going to stop? No, you ain't going to be like, hey, I ain't going to be able to make it. It was a detour. Okay, the GPS is going to tell you another way to get there. And so when we keep our intentions in place, we're going to look at another way on how we can still get to our destination. No matter what, even though something might have came up, you still found a way to get to your destination. And so if in order for us to move with intentions in our life, we have to know the destination so we can say, how am I going to get there if this route didn't happen? How am I going to get there? Okay, I got to figure out another route. And like you said, we can't be afraid to ask for help, look for resources. And it's just sometimes, it's just some stuff that we just not good at. And we just got to say, okay, this ain't for me, but that don't mean that I can't get somebody to help me with this. And so when we take away that realm of fear of, I don't think that I can do this, and just say, this will get done. Now, it don't mean that you gonna do it, but somebody gonna get it done. The quote that I have on right now, right? Do not let problems define who you are, but let them, become, what develops you. And so when we're moving with intentions, we're now, even whatever problem that come up, that problem or that opportunity is the reason how we got to the place that we're at. It's nothing that is there that has stopped you unless you are dead. That's the only thing. And I just believe that when we take off that aspect of time and saying, oh, I have to have this happen by this time, now we are creating so many more self-doubts. We're saying, okay, instead of putting that time frame near, we're saying, I'm going to get this done. I will do this. Because even if, I seen something that said, look, even if you buy a house at 65 years old, that's still an accomplishment. You still bought a house. And so when we start saying things like that, we look at it from the aspect of this is an opportunity for me to get to the place that I may have needed this opportunity or this problem or this opposition to come so I can see that there's another way. What you're saying is obstacles are opportunities to develop you. Is not to necessarily make you stay in that place. It can define you if you allow it to. And so I believe that, everything is a clay and molding process, right? And I always say that it's not that we don't know if the clay thing is happening, if the molding process is happening. There is a molding process happening. It is just up to us if we're doing the molding or if we're being molded. That's all it is. We have to figure out which side of it are we going to be on. And so now when we have intentions with our life, now we will take more control. We won't allow these obstacles to actually say, this is molding me. We're saying, no, this obstacle, I'm actually doing the molding. So now I can still continue to move forward. Now, here's the thing. I believe that you learn more from a failure or a loss than you do from a win and success, because failure and loss makes you go back to the drawing board. When you win or you succeed, you like, oh, I did it. I'm good. I don't need to improve on nothing. But that failure or that loss may be just what you needed so you can go and mold it so it can be done better. So you can now actually get the win later. And so we know, like I just remember a reference. It talked about Kobe Bryant when they lost a basketball game. He went back and shot all of these shots. Like, okay, I'm going to go back and see something is wrong. I need to take this time to actually say it's something that I thought I was sweet at, but I'm not. And so now by us being honest with ourselves and not allowing that self-doubt, because self-doubt will come in when you take a loss, when you have some type of failure, you just like, oh no, it's just not going to happen. I messed up or it didn't work the 5 times that I tried. Those self-doubts will become inhibitors. And so now you put these center blocks on your feet with this self-doubt and you can't move at all. And so you're just stuck still. So we have to actually say, I know what it is that I'm trying to do. And so if I continue to learn from these things, look at these as you're saying, as opportunities for me to actually move with intention, move, look for growth, see how it can be better. We can move forward. We can still, we look at babies, they continue to keep up and keep going, keep trying. And sometimes we still need motivation from others to help encourage us. So the encouragement is not going to always come from within. Sometimes you're going to need a Wanice, you're going to need a Glasstein, you're going to need an ET, you're going to need somebody to encourage you, to let you know you can keep on going, you can keep on doing this, but you have to say, I'm not going to allow these doubts or these fears to stop me and be still. I'm going to actually take these doubts and fears and be the reason and the motivation why I keep on trying. You have to allow them to be teaching moments and not allow them to be things that are inhibitors in our life. And when we start believing this lie, as you're saying, it's going to take more effort for me to maintain this. And so at some point, that is going to be shown. It's something that I learned some years back. They say what don't come out in the wash is gonna come out in the rinse, right? And so we have to go ahead and put the reality on the forefront so we can be intentional about whatever it is that we're trying to do, because it's, again, as we talked about earlier, it's those intentions that we have that's going to help us to stay focused and remember the vision. Because when we have that vision in mind, that is going to help us to say, even, and again, we may deviate one way or we may deviate another way, but that vision is going to make us say, okay, let me get back on the track. That's going to be the real motivator for you to actually have a reason to start moving forward. Because when you don't have no real intentions, you don't have no real goals, you don't have no, as they say, purpose, how can you hit any target if you don't even know what you're shooting at? Listen, I'm not no therapist, and I let people know that from the gate, right? And so I don't get into the where it came from, right? But I do get into the, again, about, we talking about intentions. I get into the, okay, how can you use that as a motivator for you to get to the next level of what you're trying to get to? Like, how can you change that mindset from this happened to me to this happened for me? And so when we start being, again, intentional about the things that we're doing, it actually makes it a lot easier, because that becomes that motivation force. That becomes that driving force. I remember the movie The Matrix, and Neo just couldn't, he put his hands up and he not going to allow anything to come in, and anything that did come in, he was able to decipher that code and say, I'm going to turn this into what I want to turn it into. And so we have to be able to see how we can take whatever obstacle, whatever, as you said, opportunity, decipher that code, and be able to say, this is now going to help catapult me to get to where I was going. This is going to be one of the driving forces to my motivations. We really have to learn how to not only utilize the tools that we have, but make sure that we're using them in the proper way for whatever job that we're doing. And so sometimes when we start looking at these obstacles and not evaluating what we learn from it, it becomes a hindrance for us. And so what you're saying is, learn from this situation as much as you can possibly can. So look at, like, learning self. Like, I've become a real big advocate of reading the book of self. Learn what's something that came from something. What did you learn from that? And if you didn't learn anything from it, you should go back to that so you can see how you can actually implement this in something else. I can easily say, one thing can be a driving, motivating force for something else. And so if, like you talked about earlier, you had that trauma that happened to you, but you're now actually saying, even though I had this trauma, this is a reason for me to also still work out, because I know with that, it was an obstacle to do that, and I just, I know that, the society that we in, we don't see how much we normalize shame as much as we do, because allowing ourselves not to oh man, I didn't get this done. Oh man, I knew I should have. Everything is a deadline for us. When in reality, if you did the best that you could at that moment or that day, you actually worked for your rest. You earned it. You deserve it.